And we're back. Question for you. Should your phone be used as evidence if there's no evidence before the phone is opened? We'll talk about that one coming up. So, we've got a number of topics we're going to get into. We're going to talk about WordPress and how that's been an absolute cybersecurity nightmare. We're going to talk about GrapheneOS. That's a big one. We're going to talk about surveillance pricing. We got an update for you from our show last week. UK, the numbers are in. Age verification is not a success. It's a mixed bag. So stay tuned for that because they're following up with AI rules. Everything with AI must be posted, just like those stupid cookie alerts on every page that you ever navigate. That'll be fun. FCC has canceled one of the big things that I was looking forward to. The nutrition facts for your ISP to say what's your speed, what's your rate, how long are you going to pay that rate, that kind of thing. That's no longer going to be forced on ISPs because it was too complicated for our ISPs to manage. That's right.
No, it wasn't.
Companies that serve data can't handle managing to tell us how much it costs. Anyways, Mike, how you doing?
Good.
What an interesting time when a data management company can't figure out how to tell us how much it costs to give us a chance on that. Jackson,
sounds like a non-committal thing to me, but whatever.
Right? Jackson, how you doing?
Doing good. Just dandy.
Just dandy. That's a good descriptor for the day. Artie, is your day dandy as well?
I've had a day. I will elaborate if it's required, but I just had a day.
I'm happy when I have just a single day at a time. There's days where 2 or 3 just gang up on me all at once. It's not my favorite. Well, speaking of not our favorite, there was a gentleman who was entering the United States, U.S. citizen, coming in from his travels abroad, had a GrapheneOS phone. So, warrantless search and seizure, great. You're at your border. It's a place where that can be. Where it's getting interesting, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but GrapheneOS has a feature. There's a duress PIN code. So you've got your regular PIN code. You type in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're into your phone. But if somebody has nefarious or forced, give me your code, you could say, my code is 5678. And the phone goes through a self-destruct routine. Literally everything is wiped off of it. There's no evidence left. And this guy is now in jail because he gave that number to the Border Patrol when they decided to scan his phone.
Mm-hmm.
Not sure the whole details on the case, and I don't want to get into the legal side of things too much, but I can say what an interesting tool that is.
I have
Privacy
one question
first.
about it.
Yeah.
I have one question about it. Why isn't that a function on all phones?
I think if it was, there'd be more people in jail right now because this guy is sitting in jail waiting for his lawyer to enumerate the value of the Fourth Amendment to the Border Patrol. They're going to reconcile this. I don't know what that means. Nobody knows what that means. There's a lot of people on both sides saying, yes, that's good. No, that's bad. I'm on the side of warrantless search and seizure should not be a thing.
I'm also going to toss
and the
out
technology
there,
is helping.
It's a Fifth Amendment as well, because if by giving a PIN number to access your phone, that is a violation of self-incrimination.
Maybe.
The reason it's not a thing on other phones is because the other phones don't want to lose your data. That's why. GrapheneOS is a security and privacy. That's kind of their main thing. That's why, obviously, this gentleman had it installed on his phone is because he was worried about his own privacy and security. And sure enough, all it took was an opportunity for Border Patrol to attempt to violate that, and he used the tools that he had given himself in order to protect himself from whatever the Border Patrol was hoping to do with his phone. So yeah, I think that's the reason that it's not a common feature. Plus, if you think about it, with an iPhone, you don't want grandma accidentally putting in the wrong pin and then she loses all of her pictures. That's a bad day. So I think they're properly in their own niche. Anyone who knows about it is gonna want it, and they'll probably be around that same. They'll be in that idea of porting a new OS onto your phone.
Well, this goes to that juxtaposition of privacy versus national security at the border. I can see both sides, but I mean, this was a U.S. citizen coming back. Surely there's other ways we could have gathered information. From what I understand, this wasn't a we know what's on your phone. It was let us see what's in your phone so we can then use it against you.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this in another dimension here. The Tor network. I got the chance to meet one of the most staunch advocates for the Tor network, and her life was an absolute nightmare. Somebody stole her identity and then started taunting her maliciously, unceasingly for years. She finally got police involved, and they couldn't do anything about it because there was no link back to the person. They were using the Tor network. And it's a fascinating story if you ever get into it. I don't want to name too much on this because that changes the way this podcast is seen by the world. Not that the subject matter at hand right now will get us more than 6 views. Well, like and subscribe. Anybody that's watching, please like and subscribe. Make a comment because we need to see the algorithm do something more with our podcast, at least this one. So she went for years being cyberbullied by somebody who was using Tor to anonymously just eviscerate her life. She called this person would get a hold of the job and slander and get this poor lady fired. She moved town to town. They followed her. It was bad. And then she joined the Tor project and is advocating that Tor should be a tool. Anonymous tools should be here. The question is, why would somebody who has suffered years of torment advocate for the privacy tool that's there?
Torment.
What's that?
Torment.
Yeah. I see what you did there, Jackson.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious, what was her take on it?
So I don't want to paraphrase too hard or too wrong, but basically, if we don't have the right to free speech and privacy will be a component of free speech, then nothing will happen out in the open. Everything will go behind the scenes. It will prevent society from doing things. We'll go into more of a surveillance state than a free open discourse. Whistleblowers can't reach out. News sources saying, hey, this is happening in this government that we're not getting along with today. That can't happen anymore. You've got to have these anonymity tools to allow things to happen. So how do you get around that? You got a system that allows anonymous functions. And I'll point back to the Silk Road, how they got that guy. We're going 15 years in history, guys. Silk Road was taken down because he made mistakes. And through good police work, they nailed him. He had a laptop. Have you guys heard this story?
I've definitely heard it. I can't remember the specifics.
So his mistake was he used his real email address in setting up one of the hosting environments that the Silk Road was running on. Police did their work. They tracked everything down, opened up all the doors, all the angles, and found it. So then they traced him down. He was at a library in San Francisco. and they decided that was going to be the day they come down on him. But they knew that they had to get him with an open book evidence. So here's where I'm at on this graphene thing. The way they got the Silk Road guy, they swarmed in, got close without him seeing him in a library, sitting there typing away at the Silk Road, doing his management things. And they had a semi-beautiful woman or very beautiful woman, it depends who you talk to, come up to him and start accusing him, saying, you cheated on me. You did this. What's wrong? You moved out of my place. Threw him off his game. He's like, I don't even know who you are. What's going on? So his time and attention was now focused on this woman who is creating a scene in the library, loud for everybody to see. And just as he stood up to talk to her, she grabbed the screen of the laptop that was signed in, pulled it away, and the guy was tackled by everybody. So the computer was still signed in. They had full access to the Silk Road. They had everything they needed. So they did it through good police work, and they did it through a time strategy. So if we've got somebody that's criminal enough, we can do a strategy to get into somebody's phone. It shouldn't be just, hey, I want to see what you're doing wrong today. Give me your phone.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, we don't want to get political on this podcast, but I mean, I think part of, well, people are theorizing that part of the reason that Border Patrol was trying to get into his phone is because he shared some political views that they didn't, essentially. And so they wanted to try and nab him on something. And they were throwing all these accusations at him that were essentially baseless. And they had no evidence, but they wanted to find evidence. And so that's when they were demanding access to the phone. And so, that's the whole reason we have the right to privacy in this country, and why that we should be putting up a much bigger public fuss about, something like this happening. Because if it could happen to him, then it could happen to you. It may not be the same situation. You may not even have GrapheneOS. You may never want to put it on your phone, but it will be in a different time and place. It'll be a different time and place and a different situation, and they may want to violate your rights, and they'll use all of these things as precedent.
Mike, should a single device with incriminating stuff on it be the thing that clinches the deal, makes the case, takes you down? Or should it be multiple things?
So I think it should be multiple things for one. And two, like, here's the thing is that I don't know why they're so upset that his phone got wiped, because if they deleted it, that, like, imagine I'm a security person and I want to inspect the phone, and the person wipes it or causes me to type in the code that causes it to get wiped. Well, the phone's now wiped, which means it's of no value to me, but it's also of no value to him at that moment. So, unless there was probable cause, I don't like, and like I said, we're not really getting into the legal side of it, but it would be really, really, really interesting if we could get one of our lawyer friends on here to talk about this, because without the probable cause, why would you even need to look at the phone? And if the evidence, if basically they already suspect what's on the phone, there should be some other means by which they know that besides looking at the phone itself. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
So yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me to say, our only piece of evidence is what we think we might find if we look at it. And it's like,
yeah, it should be
we're
gambling,
we're rolling the dice here. We might catch somebody doing something bad, and I get that we want to have secure borders. That's not a ridiculous thing to want that, because there are people out there from other places that want to do us harm. And that's true for any country, whether you're in the United States or Canada or Switzerland or Germany or even Russia. You don't want people coming into your territories with the intent to do harm to your citizens, right? And so I get that we want to have security measures that allow us to check for things. I mean, we have TSA that looks through people's bags. We want to make sure you're not bringing any contraband into the country. We want to make sure that you're being safe. Like, we don't want dangerous things that are brought in that could hurt somebody. And so
but it's not just a single thing.
But we're in an age
right
now where technology is not just physical things that can hurt people. Now we're in an age where information can hurt people. And that's what we're trying to say, is that I want to screen for anything that can hurt anybody. Well, that includes information, whether it's digital or, whatever. And we're trying to apply these rules in a way that I don't know if they can really be properly applied, because at the same time, we also have to balance that people have a right to privacy, that there has to be some kind of a justification to look for these things. So
yeah, so if you've got somebody that's a U.S. citizen coming back home, they should have all the rights, privileges, and everything that the Constitution guarantees. At the border, I could see the need to do extra screening, just make sure there's no contraband, there's no nefarious goods,
and that's
data.
where I want to get the lawyer friend involved too, because to me, I have in my mind that we have a constitution, we have all kinds of national laws that governs our citizens. But we could potentially be talking about people that are not necessarily our citizens. Now, I think you did say in this case it was somebody who is a citizen returning back. So there's that scenario. But then we get into another scenario where it is somebody actually coming from to visit the country. And so then the rules are a little bit different. In my mind, that's the way it kind of should be, because like, hey, you aren't from here. We don't know who you are. For all we know, you could be a fire hydrant salesman, or you could be someone out here to harm somebody. We don't know. And so we got to check you out a little bit more, because your papers, we don't necessarily recognize your documents and this and this and that, right? So I get that there has to be kind of a difference. But at the same time, like in this case, if it's a citizen, well, Constitution, man. And how do we apply that? How does the advance of technology play with a Constitution that was written 250 years ago?
What I love?
Can I follow up on what Mike is talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
With the Constitution, I mean, there's an order of operations that they've got to go through when it comes to citizens, and one of those is a warrant. If they wanted to get access to the phone, they would have to get a warrant. And there's a lawyer who I watch occasionally who likes to give tips that vary state to state on how to protect yourself from police officers that don't necessarily want you knowing your rights. And one of them is they try to get you to unlock your phone for them, because they can't legally unlock your phone without your consent, because that falls under certain jurisdictions, and that's gone to the Supreme Court, and it's been, not going to get into all that. But by him giving them the number to unlock the phone, he didn't initiate the destruction on the phone. The cops initiated the destruction on the phone.
So he knew that it was going to be the consequence of that code.
Okay,
right?
So that's my thing. Like, did the law enforcement then recognize that or assume that because he gave them a code, did they assume that meant consent?
That's for the lawyers.
I know we're getting into
that is for the
legal
lawyers.
side of it here, and that's what's so interesting about it is that we have an advanced piece of technology that then it's like it really challenges the legal side of things.
Can I make a prediction? I got two things. One, I'm going to make a prediction. It's not going to be a destruct code. You're going to see GrapheneOS or some other OS figure out how to do a misinformation or disinformation interface where you sign in and it is a completely fictitious phone with fictitious information, whatever it is, and none of your data is there. It's cloaked behind the scenes. Just call it a hunch. I'll bet that's coming.
Yeah, I would almost prefer that, right? Because then you have to start over from scratch. Yeah, maybe give me 3. Give me 3. If worse comes to worse, then you give them the distress one, right? To totally wipe everything. I feel like the last thing I want to say about this, as I was sitting here thinking about it, I feel like a lot of the times we get caught up in these arguments of whether or not, okay, well, is it worth it to violate these rights in this situation, right? Like he's coming from out of country, maybe he's not a citizen. Well, at that point, is it worth violating the rights that that person is given in order to potentially protect whatever, you name it? And I feel like with a lot of these issues, and it's come up with Flock too a lot. This is the constant debate with Flock, is it worth it, right? But I feel like we have to go back to the Constitution, which has been upheld for 250 years. So it's not that it's just some old law. It's been upheld because it hasn't been amended, right? And so that's how I see it. Is it is an ongoing, we uphold this. And so it hasn't changed. The Fourth Amendment has not changed. And so I feel like we can't, as soon as you decide that, okay, well, in this situation, then it's worth violating, then you need to then go back and amend that Constitution, because that's not something that, if we as a society decide that's what we want, then that doesn't coincide with what's in the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those ones, the more technology gets pervasive, the more easy it is for us to protect our privacy, and for those that don't want to protect our privacy to break into our privacy. So the question, and I love where this conversation is going, not just today, but on the national scale, we're going against, is this right that somebody should have a right to privacy, or is it right that the state should oversee your privacy? I'm very curious where this goes, but I'll tell you, let's talk Flock for a second. Supreme Court just laid down some interesting precedents saying that a partial Fourth Amendment intrusion, people say if you're in a public space, you don't have a right to privacy. Well, anti-stalking laws kind of contradict that. Just saying. The Supreme Court said that any fraction of a violation of your right to privacy should not be entertained. A partial violation of the Fourth Amendment shouldn't be used as an excuse, saying it's only a dozen places in the town that these Flock cameras exist. It's a dozen places that they should not exist because they are capturing 100% of all the data all the time. Do they do good? Sure. Is it worth it? LA County has just decided, no, it's not. They're taking them out. So there's that.
There's also, was that the United States Supreme Court, or was it a state? Okay, cool. Yeah. So that's nationwide. That's awesome.
Yep. And it was very specific and very technical from a legal perspective. So don't take it to the bank and run with it. Don't think that you're going to get away with it when you pull out your Sawzall and express yourself on the next Flock camera, because that's illegal. That's a felony. Don't do that. But the hilarious part to me is there's people that are for this technology and there's people against the technology. That's not the funny part. The funny part is the people that are for the technology think that they're in the majority. They're not. People are pushing back, and they are pulling out their sawzalls and expressing themselves all over these cameras.
Well, I
It's
really
bad.
like
It's wrong. There's a better way to do it. In the
I really
meantime,
liked.
Yeah.
Sorry, I really like the video that Ben Jordan did in collaboration with another YouTuber. I'm forgetting his name right now. But they kind of flock, in a way where they went to their headquarters. They went and they were just just surveying the area, just making sure no illegal activity was going on. And flock employees didn't like it. And so I mean, I think it's funny for them to get a little taste of their medicine, and then then they immediately turn around and say, "Hey, like, you don't need your privacy." But then they are calling the cops on these guys who were just outside of their business.
That is very similar to what Louis Rossman had recently. He went to one of these meetings about Flock, and he had requested permission to record it prior to going. And then when they get there, they had some technical issues. So he had one of his people go up and talk and say, "Can you put this microphone on?" And no, I don't feel comfortable with that. It's just like, oh, so like we don't feel comfortable being recorded in public. You understand how we feel now. And it was just like a total serendipitous moment that was just fantastic.
You got to love the hypocrisy of some of these things. Like it's. Do you guys remember the VidAngel lawsuit? So Disney, Warner Brothers, and a whole bunch of other studios got against a streaming platform that removed profanity or rated R content from films so you could share it with your kids, because Deadpool is for the kids, right?
Not hardly.
So they had this technology so that if you feel so inclined, you could remove the content that you didn't want. A studio said, "Don't transform our art," and took them to court. I thought it would be the most, I guess, performant hypocrisy to have your attorney as VidAngel show up and just stream the eloquence of like Tupac, Samuel L. Jackson, Eminem, and just pull out all the stops
and lay it
be
on
legally
thick.
accurate, but profane in the process. And when the judge has an issue, "Oh, I'm sorry, would you like the censored version?" Because we can do that.
Right.
You think that lawyer would get fined for
Shot
that?
on site.
I don't know. There might be some lawyers out there that would love to be the martyr on that.
Only if he's able to get to that point. There's a good chance he would be told to shut up and sit down before he reached the point.
And that would be, I think that would have been the most poignant hypocrisy out of all of it, to say there's a time and place, and the person in charge of the time and the place should decide what is shareable and what's not.
Well, we've got to reform the copyright laws there.
Right? So speaking of copyright laws, here's one that wasn't on our lead-in. Did you guys hear about AI data centers chopping up books?
No, I saw a headline about it, but I didn't actually get have the time to read it.
Why are they chopping up books? Like, how do you mean chop? Like physically?
Yeah. Why? Oh, it's inglorious. So you have a data center, you have an AI bot that you're training with lots of data. How do you put more data in than the competition? You buy all the rare books that you can get your hands on, and you put them in a system. Well, what's the most efficient way? Chop off the binding, put in a automatic document feeder scanner,
right?
Read it 60 pages a minute, and throw away the rinds. Nothing's left. It's all scanned in.
Oh my goodness.
So rare print, out of print, hard to find books. They're buying them up by the hundreds of thousands just to scan it and then throw it away.
Oh my goodness.
This feels like a burning of the Library of Alexandria again.
Well,
it really is. They're scanning it in just for themselves, and they're locking this knowledge proprietary.
It's a burning, but at least with the burning, it was like to eliminate it completely. At least the information is being retained somehow, but
it's
that's
not being
like
retained in a method that
in a
is appropriate.
usable. Yeah, that's right. It's just like, wow,
being turned into tokens.
And pulp.
So
Yeah.
that's
yucky.
why things like the Internet Archive are so important, because all of these historic things, and books, websites, I mean everything that could possibly go on there. I think they're extremely important because you prevent things like this from having an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we want to prevent
seen
this in the first place.
The response.
Have you seen how Go ahead, Artie.
The response that a lot of companies have had and a lot of other bastions of knowledge is that they have forbid the Internet Archive from flashing their sites anymore because it's being that the companies that run these models are using the Internet Archive as the place they scrape from because they're blocked from the other place. So so Internet Archive is a great site, but the AI companies are killing it.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things. Like should knowledge be out there for everybody, or should it be locked behind a door with a secure key and only 12 people in the world get access to it? I cut you off, Jackson. Go for it.
Oh, I was just thinking. Well, maybe I wasn't. I totally just lost that train of thought.
Here's my thought on it.
Derailed that train.
Like I said, it is information that's being preserved in a way. It'd be nice to know, though, because we know how accurate and truthful these large language models can be, right? It'd be nice
no
to
hallucination.
Right. I mean, if I said like let's say there's a historic work of a book or something, and I said, tell me about this and tell me an accurate history of this book. Tell me, who authored it, if I could rely on the AI to give me the complete work as it was with the illustrations, with whatever else is supposed to come with it, and not hallucinate any part of it, then I mean it's a Internet Archive on steroids in fact, because then at that point you can have it summarize it for you, you can have it give other kinds of ideas about it, or just have a discussion with the AI about that work. But that's the problem, is that right now is that all the AIs I see, there ends up being some sort of misinformation, hallucination. You get led down a wrong path that's not entirely accurate because of other input from the internet where people made incorrect assumptions or something. Or
Madagascar was inserted in line in white text.
Yeah, we talked about that
earlier
about
the Odyssey, and it'll say it was written by Christopher Nolan.
Right. I mean, it's just like, I don't think it's fair to gatekeep the knowledge if your model isn't going to provide an accurate presentation of it.
Mm-hmm.
Have
you seen how archivists scan books?
Oh, very carefully. It's like a white glove event, right?
Kind of. They developed this really cool device. It looks like a knife, but it's actually this blade thing that comes down, vacuums up 2 pages, and reads them, scans them in as it lifts it, and then it moves over, lets them fall down, then comes in and scans the next page. Scans 2 pages at a time, and turns the page, scans those 2 pages, turns a page, and goes through the whole book that way. It's slow, methodical, but the book is intact at the end.
Yeah, and it keeps the book intact. That's the important thing.
That is a cool piece of technology. I've seen that.
It feels like really cool.
These companies are just wanting to increase their vault of knowledge while destroying it for the rest of the people that are out there.
And that's where I think so it's a rare moment for me to advocate for government stepping in, regulating stuff. But this is absolutely one of those times where we need government to say, stop burning books. Or if you burned it, you not only need to load it to the Internet Archive or make it free and public for everybody, because you're destroying.
For those of you that don't know,
event.
Project Gutenberg is a wonderful online resource. They back up all sorts of books that it's my favorite go-to place for any books online. Anything that's in the public domain is there pretty much.
Now I've got family that is authors. They get their money from books. So this is one of those sensitive things to me. I definitely want artists to get their dues, and to just buy 100,000 books or 1 million books and chop them up and scan them in. It's wrong.
Yeah. And I understand, like, if we're talking historic books, one, it's out of print, so it is reasonable to believe that the copyrights have long since expired. However, that fact that it's old, there's this historic nature. I mean, people need to be able to have a physical connection with history. You know, it's one thing to hear about and look at, go to Wikipedia or even just a Google search or something and read about some historic book or story or work of art or anything. It's something completely different to go to the museum and actually see it in person. I remember when I got to go to New York City and I saw Van Gogh's Starry Night in person. I had seen it in books and books and books and on the internet lots of times. I know what the picture generally looks like, right? But until you actually go to the museum and you're standing in front of it and you're like, Van Gogh painted that right there. And you can stand there and admire it and admire its beauty and everything. It's a different feeling and it's a different experience than just looking at it in a book. So to destroy physical history is, I mean, yes, there is a lot of things we don't necessarily need to keep. We can't keep everything. Otherwise, we're going to all be a bunch of hoarders, and we can't keep everything. But there are significant things that we shouldn't be destroying, and we should be trying to preserve as much as we can. Yes, scan it, index it, whatever you need to do to get a digital copy of it so that the information is preserved, because heaven forbid that the museum has a fire and, everything burns up. But as much as possible, we need to preserve our physical history so that others can experience it.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if every time you took a picture of something, it got like physically destroyed. Like, think about all of the, especially in England, like in the United States, we don't have a ton of really old architecture just because the United States isn't that old.
Not European architecture.
There could be use of that camera like that, though. Just saying.
Right. Maybe in the future there'll be some method of digitization that requires like assimilation. But
I'm learning by osmosis.
Right, but I mean, I know people that make entire summer vacations are going to England and seeing all of the old architecture, the cathedrals, the castles. Like, physical history is very important, and I think we can differentiate that by the effort and the significance that a certain object plays. And so books, I feel like, carry a lot of effort by the author and oftentimes a lot of significance depending on the topic, right? Diary of a Wimpy Kid may carry a little bit less significance, but you could argue that it carries a lot because a lot of kids grew up reading those, and that's like part of their childhood. But anyway, what I'm saying is the reason that books are important, the same reason that, you know, this old architecture is important, because there were a large number of hands that went to create that work, or and it carries societal significance.
Well, I can't say the next piece that we need to move towards is societal, but it will definitely feel.
I'm not going to let this go. I've got to add my 2 cents. Speaking as somebody who literally stood above where Charles Darwin was buried and got their selfie taken with William Shakespeare while they were in England. So there is a connection there. There is a very deep connection to experiencing just being even where they're resting. When I went to Stratford upon Avon, the one thing that I really wanted to see was one of the first folios. For those that don't know, it's what virtually every Shakespearean play comes from, is the folios. And they're not necessarily the originals. They could be copies of the originals that were just gathered over time. But
they were shared in story and song, but now they're written down.
But they were not available for us to see. But even just being there, walking around his house, everything just had more meaning after that trip. And I didn't even like Shakespeare that much.
Well, speaking of the UK, let's segue on that one. We've got just a little bit of time left. I love this conversation, but I think we've run past our sequence of events. So forgive us, anybody that's still with us. Forgive us for not hitting all the data points that we talked about at the beginning. UK age verification has not been the rousing success it was promised.
Oh.
Oops.
I am currently the Captain Kirk meme.
Which one?
Yeah, I'm lost on
that. He's got his hand on his cheek, and then it slowly goes over his mouth, and it's just like shock, but not really shock. From the animated series.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, from the anime. Okay, yeah, I know the one you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah, there comes a point at which called it. Like, I forget which episode it was. We might note that somewhere in our hashtags on this, but yeah, we predicted that kids without IDs aren't going to type them in to not go to dangerous places. That's right. I said it. You got to put in your ID to prove that you're an adult to go to any website where kids shouldn't be. Who'd have thought that idea would fail? So they're now pushing for this idea of kids 16 years old and up and 14 years old up could get IDs so that they can get in and prove that they're children that can get to not the entire internet because they're proven they're a child. Or don't. I mean,
like, it's literally, the internet is the same thing as like walking outside. In order to prevent someone from walking outside, you have to imprison them. It's the only way. Like, you can't do it otherwise.
The boy in the bubble.
I mean, I think I just made a connection there, Jackson. So the UK age verification thing is the legal requirement of the movie Don't Look Up.
I don't think I've seen that one. It's an old one.
I haven't watched it, but the whole premise of the film is there's something up in the sky that is ominous. It could kill us, whatever. Don't look up, and your life will be just fine. Because if you look up, you'll get terrified, and people freak out.
It's a movie about the end of days, and there's an apocalyptic event. Somebody finds something that's going to hit the planet, and the advice of the government is, don't look up. It's not. There's nothing to worry about.
It only inspires fear. Don't look up. So I think this is the age verification. Like you're saying, you go out in the world, you can look up. This feels like the legal yeah.
I got you.
I think that's a good
Yeah, you're
analog.
absolutely right, though. The world is a scary. I mean, I remember years ago when I was in high school, and it got me to the point of thinking, like, wait a minute. You know, I come from a good family. We try to have, clean morals and everything. There's, certain habits and everything we try not to do. And one of those things is like we don't go out and go watch R-rated movies and everything like that. But then as I'm attending high school, I'm like, this movie was rated R for language. I go to high school, my life is an R-rated movie because it's in the halls between every class. Like I cannot get from one class to another without hearing more cuss words than what I would hear in the typical R-rated movie, or even just the types of discussions that are happening in the hallways, which would make most people blush, and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And it's like the world is a place, and the internet's no different. The internet is a place. It's just in a different medium that's being presented,
Well, and there's so many websites now. We're watching this argument between the U.S. and the EU on. Let me back up there for a second. Have you seen like France and Germany say we're not going to follow the tech companies in the United States? We're going to develop our own solutions. They've created their own Office, their own Microsoft 365, their own whatever, just so they don't have to use US-based stuff. It's a bold statement to say we're going to make a law that requires the entire internet to participate and put a thing on their website that requires IDs to be loaded to all of them, from Argentina to Zimbabwe. Mm-hmm. Everybody must do this. Well, all the websites that we don't want kids to get to exist in all of those countries too. So unless all of them get on the same program, there's going to be places that people can get out and do things. So you can't control technology with legislation like this.
Yeah, it's the same way. I think we made this comparison before, but I'll say it again. The same way you can't prevent a Coloradan or a Utahn from buying fireworks in Wyoming and driving back.
You can catch them, but you can't prevent them from doing it.
Exactly.
So they might erase their phone in the process.
You erase your phone with fireworks.
Too soon? Too soon?
Yeah, so then you add on top of it, the internet and all that, and there's just no way that you can regulate it. And so it's no surprise that they come back and say, well, it didn't really work.
I think the other thing.
So it went from what was the stats, Artie?
I'm sorry?
What were the stats?
So the stats, I'm looking at Mashable's write-up on this. Those that encountered highly effective age checks went from 25% to 43%. However,
percent of what? Sorry.
Population that is getting age checked in the country. So it's increased, but it's really not that much. That's what, 18%?
53% increase.
18%.
No, I'm talking about the number of people doing it. There's 50% more people doing that. It's not bad, but it's still less than half the people.
Yeah. And they've had they've done checks with the kids, and they found that people under the age or 14 and under were still able to find the places that they weren't supposed to go. They didn't stay long according to the sources. 87% that found them were off the site within 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But one of the things that they ran across as the issue is that you type in something in Google, you type in something in Bing. I know people use Bing. And it still comes up. And a lot of the things that come up are not based in the UK, so they don't have to follow the laws. And because the UK isn't their direct, I don't know who said it, but it's basically the UK is trying to tell US companies, you can't work this way. I think that was what the 4chan, they were trying to sue 4chan when 4chan is not a UK entity. That's exactly what they're getting into, is they're trying to dictate how other countries should run their internet. And they're realizing it's not happening.
If you guys want a fun read, follow up on that lawsuit and the back and forth. The posts from 4chan's lawyers were off the hook cool. Like we're no longer subject to the UK's laws as of the Declaration of Independence. They were savage. It was great. Well, speaking of savage changes, you guys have seen the cookie announcements, the GDPR, all that fun stuff. That's been adopted universally because there's some good ideas. But the cookie, you get a little pop-up saying this website uses cookies. Check our policy. Do you want to opt in, opt out? The majority of websites don't respect it. It's still just a pop-up. It doesn't change a thing. Cookies behave like they did before. It's all for show.
Necessary cookies only, please.
Right?
Whatever that means. Whatever they determine is necessary probably isn't my idea of necessary, but hey, there you go.
Yeah, I would love for a browser button that says no more cookies. I think that should be a thing, but that breaks all kinds of other stuff. We're not getting into that. What we are going to get into is there's going to be a new bar next to that, as required by the UK, saying this site has AI content on it.
EU, not UK.
What's that?
European Union, not UK.
Oh, it's even bigger. I thought I had that written down as UK. That is my bad.
If you did, you spoke it to us as EU.
So, AI content.
Yeah.
Like I can't tell on my own. Like,
I mean, a lot of people can't.
The way that most AI content goes right now on my social feed, it's like, okay, that's AI for sure. Like, I mean, if you're gonna try, at least try to get it right. Come on. I mean,
I've realized I've actually gotten good enough of seeing like whether or not something was generated with AI. I don't even know. It's like a subconscious thing now where I am automatically swiping. Like if it's not often that I do, swipe on reels or whatever, but when I do, it's like I've just learned it's like just a feeling of, it's just slightly off in this way. Like the way that the face looks, the way that the eyes are rendered, all these things.
Right.
And so like, I feel like a lot of times I'm spotting it within like half a second and I'm already off of it. But I know there's a lot of people who, it takes them either a lot longer or may not, by the end, not even know. And I think I'm especially excited to see this with text because sometimes you can tell, like immediately when, a paragraph is written by AI, but sometimes you can't because I feel like we've been living with it for so long now. It's like, wait, do people still talk like that? Like we don't know anymore because everyone does it. But I think
we now talk like AI.
Right. Yeah. I'm terribly sorry. Now to clarify, and I think this is also a really great clarifying part of this requirement is that it applies mainly to content created in professional context. So it doesn't mean that if you want to make a silly image with AI on your phone for, whatever you're doing personally, That doesn't have to come with some disclaimer somewhere on the image that says this is AI. What it does mean though is that if a company is trying to sell something, or maybe it's even just a social media page that is their main form of content, they would have to tell you this is, AI.
So
Derived from the
Facebook,
10 million books we scanned.
yeah, like Facebook and Instagram, the Meta platforms, and maybe some others, I think have already had something similar to this to try to tag and identify AI content. So here's a thing that I noticed, like advertisements that look like they're advertised. I think I'm with you, Jackson, where it's like, it starts out at first, you're like, okay, it's a person acting. But then as I watch, it's like, no, that's AI. Because the mouth movements are almost too precise, or something like that, And so it's like, okay, that's AI. Then there's the clearly off the wall stuff that's just posted. That's like, okay, yeah, that's AI. There's been a lot of, cause I'm into railroads and trains and stuff. And so there's stuff that I've seen that's clearly AI done of trains. And it's so interesting to see how AI gets it wrong. The tracks end up like both rails end up diverging, and the train stays on the tracks or something like that, And it's just like, okay, that's AI. Logos, paint schemes, just different things like that. It's close, but wrong.
18 trucks on the bottom.
Right. Close, but wrong, kind of thing. But here's the thing. In my feed lately, and I'm trying to think if I've seen this on Facebook or if it's been on like a YouTube short. I can't remember. But it's tagged for AI content. Okay. But I'm watching the video and it's like, I don't know that I can tell. Like, as far as I can tell, it's a guy with his video camera. He's hobo riding the train, which I don't endorse or recommend at all. That's like super dangerous stuff out there. Okay. You can get yourself in a world of serious hurt and even killed. So please do not do this. But that's what the videos are of, is this guy riding on freight cars. And for all I can tell, like I don't have any reason to doubt that somebody just took their cell phone and videoed this train ride and everything, right? Yet it's being tagged as AI, that there's potential AI content in there. So I don't know to what extent that has been applied. It's something interesting I was noticing in the last couple of days. It's like, what exactly does it think is AI about this? Because as far as I can tell, it's all on the up and up. As far as I can tell, it's a real video.
Because he's riding on the outside of the train, not the inside.
No, he's riding exactly where I've seen other people ride. Like, now, having been a rail fan and chased trains, I have seen hobos on trains that I've chased, which is interesting to say the least, because it's not often that you ever see them, but I have seen them. And it's like, yeah, that's where I would be right. If it was me, that's a safer than other places. I was like, in fact, one time a coworker of mine and I saw a train, we kind of chased it up and we saw the hobos on it. And I was saying, it's a good thing they're like, I don't agree with it. They shouldn't be riding the train, but if they're going to ride, at least they're riding in the right place instead of in a different place. It's on a flat car. You don't want to be in places where you can get into trouble. That's just, so that's like, if it was an AI generated video, it was a very, very well crafted with very specific prompts and guidance from somebody who knew what they were doing, instead of just a simple 2-line prompt to say, generate me this video, Yeah.
And that's a AI art that I appreciate genuinely, that where it takes time, effort, curation of like putting together a very detailed explanation of a scene, and then the system does it. Not just 2 sentences and you get, throwing spaghetti against the wall to see, does it look good or is it crap?
Right.
Or is it good enough?
Right.
Yeah. I failed to mention this, but the way that they're planning on implementing this, they say that if the content is generated by AI or significantly manipulated by it, companies must make that clear. That includes adding visible labels as well as technical markers such as watermarks or embedded metadata that help identify synthetic materials. So that's kind of where I could see this being kind of falling through the cracks in a way.
Is that any different though when I look at my cereal box and it's got a picture of the bran flakes or whatever it is, and there's the little text down the corner that says enlarged to show texture? I think it's a whole part of a truth in advertising. Or even on commercials, it's like it'll have the disclaimer says these are paid actors. These aren't actual people who took the drug. It's paid actors to say they took the drug and it cured their ailment,
That's why I like going to H Mart. What's that, Artie?
So actors aren't real people?
But they
for a minute or two, they're not.
But they didn't really have the illness. That's the difference.
They have a completely different illness.
Right.
So, I mean, what I'm thinking, though, is if you allow for them to only if they can fulfill this requirement by putting it in the metadata is not something that you would just outright see without looking for it. That's where I could see like this kind of falling through the cracks in a way where it's like, okay, yeah, you put this requirement, but it's then the onus is going to be on maybe your browser or the social media app to then be reading that metadata and then presenting that information to you and saying, hey, this image has been tagged with, AI generated content or whatever it may be. So that's like a challenge I see, and I would like to see. I'm thinking primarily on websites and applications here. I know there's other places where this could be implemented, but I would like to see Chrome or Firefox when I pull up a web page to check for those metadata tags, and then let me know or tag it in some way if the website owner is not willing to do it themselves to make sure that I know what's been AI generated, or if it's a social media app, that's something they can do there too.
So if I understand this right, every single Bing and Google search would have to have a disclaimer on it saying these search results are generated by AI.
I think it could be read that way.
I'm going to see some pushback on this one.
Everybody knows that the billboards with the Big Mac on it, that's not a real Big Mac. That's, some pile of goo and plastic and airbrush art and, whatever to make it look like it's a big, juicy Big Mac stacked really high, right?
Yep.
Advertising companies have always been stretching the truth as long as they've been around. Truth in advertising has been a thing for a long time, and now AI is just up the game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Well, I think we are out of time. We got a couple other things. We'll put a pin in those and circle back next week on WordPress and the ISP facts and, the nutrition facts for ISPs. Stay tuned. Please like and subscribe. Definitely want to keep the conversation rolling. Love to hear your comments on these subjects. Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
My brain is soup.
Words to live by. Have a good night, everybody.